Hey, so check it out. You know how everyone nowadays is like, people don't want to grind anymore. People don't want to work for nothing. Be like, so I was thinking, I was like, why do people work at all? The only reason anyone works to do anything is so they don't have to like do work later. Like the way I see it, it all started like this. There was caveman and cavewoman, and they're like, hey, this sleeping outside thing's starting to be a little bullshit. So they're like, hey, let's find a cave. Found a cave, they're like, hey, not bad. Then after that, they're like, a little cold in this bitch. So they're like, crank out some fire, look at that. And they're feeling like hot shit now. So they're like, alright, cool, fire, cave, we can run around and do whatever. They start doing their hunting thing. Then one day, one of them wakes up, takes a couple steps, and is like, not really looking forward to walking to the watering hole today. So what do? They see a horse hauling ass, just and they're like, "Wow, I would much rather jump on the back of that 1,000-pound animal and try to control it and have it take me wherever I want to go than walk." Like that. That's how people work. And then after that, they're like, "Oh man, this bouncing up and down thing is getting a little ridiculous." So he's like, let me get my favorite chair, slap a couple wheels on that bitch, and then just have this thing drag me around. Then I'm comfortable and I'm going places. And that lasted for a long time. People had carriages and carts and whatever for forever. And then one day someone was like, I'm sick of horses. They smell like shit. So what they did is they're like, hey, I want to get from A to B and not have to deal with this. So let me take these. I'd rather go into the earth, dig up these black rocks, set them on fire, and put them in a metal contraption on some tracks than sit in this carriage anymore. That's how it went down. Then after that, they're like, hey, this train thing this ain't bad. So we're going back and forth, back and forth. And then they're like, not really a fan of having to still hop on the horse after I get off the train. And we kind of got this little motor engine thing working. So they're like, let me crank out a car. So they hop in cars, and they're going back and forth and back and forth, and be like, all right, this is the shit. Then after a while, the Wright brothers come up, and they're like, what is this ground nonsense? What the fuck do I want to do on the ground? So like, plane, A to B, that bird doesn't have problems to worry about, neither do we. And then but let me go back, because it's not just transportation, because obviously people are lazy in that department. So they still want to do things. So let's go back to when they're still having to get food. They don't want to go hunt and gather all the time. So they're like, why don't I just freaking take the shit I want to eat, bring it to my front door, and throw it in my lawn and grow it there? And they're like, hey, this works awesome. Then Bob over here wants to freaking be like, hey, I kind of want some of your corn. That looks pretty good. And they're like, to hell with you for what? And he's like, got some sheeps. I can give you some sheep shit. And he's like, alright. So then you got people trading stuff. And they're like, hey, this trading thing's getting kind of hard. I'm not really looking forward to hauling this heavy corn and heavy, lamb meat all over the place. So they stopped doing that. And they're like, wouldn't it be easier if we just take little pieces of metal and just traded those? And they're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So they start doing that. And then after a while, people are like, this works pretty well, but it's kind of heavy. And I don't like carrying shit. So I'd much rather take it and make it into little pieces of paper. And some guy was like, sounds good to me. So here we got cash, and cash is still good. But then people got even lazier than that, and they're like, whew, I'd really much rather take a single piece of paper and write down how much money I want to give you, and do that. So then we got checks, and people even got too lazy for that. They're like, checks? Writing? Have to pull out a pen? Ugh. So then they're like, hey, how about I take a little tiny piece of plastic and just swipe that bitch? And they're like, great, sounds awesome. So I don't know what the next stage is going to be, but what I'm getting at is that the reason people don't grind the way people complain about people not grinding is because they don't really have to anymore. Because the only reason any person will ever really work hard is so they don't have to work harder. Like, if you go to college, you understand this, because you're working your ass off, and I'm pretty sure most of you are not getting paid. So that's just my thoughts. I was going to type it out, but that seemed like more work than it was worth. So yeah, that's it.